So hello and welcome, my friends. Very happy to be here to share some yoga with you. Yeah, let's see. So before we get started, I just wanted to continue a little bit about what I was talking to Cynthia about. And just all of these, all of these kind of tendrils and all of these offshoots and perspectives. And it's so interesting to really put some time aside to just sit quietly and become very grounded and breathe and relax into the body. And I was thinking today, because it seems sort of in my periphery and in some of my circles, there's a lot of things happening with people, a lot of challenges, but also a lot of sort of surprise. Life is going along and it has a certain rhythm and a certain texture to it. And then life just has this amazing way of presenting a challenge. And I guess on some level, we shouldn't be surprised, but if we're not really prepared and we're not able to really find a certain balance within us in our relationship to life, it can be very surprising and very challenging and very humbling. So one of the things I've been thinking about is that if we really do want to really be happy and really begin to surrender, and I think it is a surrendering to life itself, just surrendering to the way that life holds us and the way that life gives us the lessons that we need to grow and to learn, that at some point we have to really begin to explore the process of letting go of fear, of just not being afraid. And I think if we come to this place where we just take it as a given that stuff is going to happen, it's the nature of life, that things are going to happen. Yes, and I think this past year has probably taught us a lot about that. So shit's going to happen and we are going to die. So once we can really accept these two things, we can just relax and we can allow life to present itself without this fear. So I do believe that the yoga meditation, the meditation of being grounded in the body, allowing the body to be fundamental to our growth and our awakening, that we can sit without this fear, that we can start to let go of this fear, that we can see that the fear is not necessary, and to let go of it, to then be prepared, even welcome that things are going to happen, stuff is going to happen, and that eventually we will wind down, the current of our energy, the current of our vibration will just naturally spiral into the larger current. And then there we are. So let's just sit with this for a moment. I'd like to open with one of my very favorite quotes from the Rig Veda. I do not know who or what I am. I wander about concealed and wrapped in thought. Another meditation of yoga. So please get yourself, if you have a small bolster, what I have done is I've folded up a blanket, not rolled it, and I placed a small bolster on top of it. So for what we're doing in the mid spine, this is a fairly significant height and level of compression. If you have a small bolster, you may want to just use a small bolster. If you don't have the small bolster, then you could use the folded blanket with maybe something else on top of it, because the blankets tend to be a little softer. So I just want to create some resistance and some compression into the mid back. So if you don't have the bolster, set something up like this with a couple of blankets or a blanket and a towel. Not so much a pillow, I think, because we would like to have that resistance. So I'll just do it with what I originally set up. Yeah. And then very simple, the most important thing to remember, especially if you're at a height like this, for this, is to not be on the shoulder blades. Yeah. So the two scapulas sticking out there, we want to be just below them, more towards the lower back. So sit in front of it, keep your feet on the floor, and just work your way down. So take your time to find where this spot is. So if your body is too low and you have the bolstering up too high, like right here, I'm directly on my shoulder blades. Not so good. This would be good for a couple of minutes, but not for a longer hold. So you have to bring your body up and back and really make sure you're not on them. So right here. So this, as you can see, is very, very mid-spine, from my sternum right down to the bolsters here, yeah? And then you can let the head relax back. If you feel the need for something under your head, always protect and take care of your neck. So we're not really stretching the neck so much here as compressing this mid back. And then do make sure, if you settle in and you feel the edge of the shoulder blade, pressing on that bolstering, I would go down even a little bit lower. Yeah, good. And then you can just relax your arms. And always take time to evaluate, feeling that you want to be able to really just let go and surrender into these postures. It's not about the pose in this practice, ever. It's really about coming closer and more intimate with your body. So we're not using these, the body to get into a posture. It's not an aesthetic. We're using the pose to get into the body. So I would like you to be relatively comfortable, feel the compression in the mid back without compression onto the scapula. Make sure the head is elevated so the neck feels safe. Arms are just to the side, so there's not a lot of pull on the shoulders. And then just relax. Very much the feeling that you're entering into sacred space. So we can feel into the body, certainly at a very physical level, You can feel ripples of emotional tone, contracting and expanding. But at these deeper levels of relaxation that we're moving into, the the sense of spaciousness, this internal spaciousness, it just can be very lovely and very therapeutic. And so to just honor this, to honor that we embody this sacred space within us, and we can feel a sense of groundedness. We can feel the soma itself as grounding, knowing that we are ultimately supported by the earth itself is grounding. And also allowing the breath itself to be grounding. So the yin allows us to feel and experience and intermingle with the breath as a very grounding element. So we don't have to fix the breath or change the breath. We can just trust that the breath will entrain with our metabolic rates, if you will, our metabolic changes as we go in and out of relaxation. So just allowing just the pulsation of the heart, the pulsation of the breath to be grounding. One of the many gifts of these deeper states of relaxation is that it allows us to open more to an elemental wisdom. So not the intelligence of our logic and our intellect, but this elemental wisdom of really not knowing, this part of us that is creative and intuitive and holds a very deep kind of wisdom that is foundational in not knowing. And the not knowing is in itself opening up space, and opening up space to see what unfolds. So from this space, instead of having to focus, instead of having to bring direct awareness, continue to relax, continue to soften. And from this place, begin to remember. So this is just a remembering, yes, something you already know, something all of your cells know, all of your organs, all of your processes know. Begin to remember the perfection of your body. Remember your body in perfect balance. And if I was going to broaden this out a little bit more, this is also in a context, instead of having to be logical or thinking about it and having agendas of having to uh, fix something that we feel is out of balance, having to repair something that may not be functioning properly. This is more about just remembering. This is the remembering is the healing. The healing is the remembering. The healing, remembering of the perfection of your body. Remembering the body itself in perfect balance. And so as we let this just reverberate right down to the cellular level, the cells know this. The cells themselves, the systems, the immune system, the endocrine system, the lymph system, and et cetera, they're not concerned with fixing. They're not concerned with right or wrong. They're always in a process of moving towards equilibrium and balance. And so the deep relaxation just invites this. The deep relaxation is a remembering of this perfection, a remembering of this innate, intuitive balance. This is the wisdom, the elemental wisdom and the creativity of your intuition. this elemental wisdom is the tides, the wisdom of the tides and the winds and the caterpillar in the cocoon. This is the same, the wisdom that that your body holds, the intelligence that is right below the envelope of the skin is no different than the wisdom of the tides, no different than the wisdom of the planets revolving. And when we can begin to remember this and we begin to trust this, this allows us to cultivate a very deep sense of well-being. It gives us a very well-deserved rest from the habits of our perfectionism and our need to improve self-image, our ambitions, our controlling nature, and the idea that we need to be other than we are to feel good, to feel happy, to feel safe. And this deeper sense of well-being is this groundedness in our beingness as it is, without the fear, with a sense of certainty of who we are, certainty of this this presence that really is life itself. So we're resting from everything, from many things. We're resting from ourself in a way, the habits of ourself, the tendencies of ourself, the patterns, the programming of ourself, and resting in a deeper sense of self. And this remembering that the body is in perfect balance. So this balance can be symbolized in many ways. And one of the ways that the yoga is suggesting is between knowing and not knowing. So giving our knowing a rest, allowing our not knowing to rise, to surface, to be present, to be respected, to be honored. So let us take an inner bow. Let us take an inner namaste to our not knowing, to our creativity, to our inner feminine, and to the deep perfection of our own bodies. So allow your breath at this point to consciously deepen, and be interested at the transition points of the breath. When it starts to resist a little bit, just lean into that resistance. It's really nice to explore range of motion with the lungs and the diaphragm, and just the volume of air that you are inhaling and exhaling. So let the inhale be nice and slow and deep, and lean in and press a little bit at the end of the inhale. And the same thing with the exhale. Really exhale, really empty. Really feel this emptiness at the end of the exhale. And really feel that that emptiness, the end of the exhale, is informing and preparatory for the inhale. This is such a lovely relationship to start to cultivate and to feel. And then you can put your feet on the floor, bend your knees. And I would just go side to side a little bit with the upper body. With the amount of time we've been here, we want to be very cautious with any muscular tension that has accumulated. This interesting, weaving of the collagen fibers, the fascial netting in and around the muscles. So it's been receiving this compression, and now we want to really be mindful how we come out of this. This is why we slow down and take our time and really make sure that we're always in an appropriate place for ourselves. So feet are on the floor, upper body can, sway a little bit, maybe arms over the head. And then whenever you're ready, we can just roll off of this, whatever you were using, blanket or bolster, and just come in a comfortable position. So sometimes in this kind of backward bend, you may want to come into a child's pose or fetal position on the side, or you could just lay on your back. So whatever feels restful. So let us take a rest here after we have done nothing. So we do nothing and then we rest afterward. That's the lovely thing about this practice. So one of the things that we get to explore in an approach like this that has really no method and no technique is the quality of how our awareness manifests into attention. So the underlying substance is the same. Just like it's interesting, how does a wave manifest out of the ocean? It's always water. So we have this, let's say, ocean of awareness, this unlimited, pure capacity to be aware. And then through our senses and sensibilities, we can then direct that into attention. So this is a lovely thing, and this is part of a deep, a primal survival mechanism, but it's also a limitation, because then this attention becomes very linear. It's almost like we're walking around in the dark with just a single beam flashlight, and whatever that flashlight points on, that's what we see. So part of the opening, if you will, part of the exploration, part of the invitation of yoga is to allow the awareness to be expansive, allow the awareness to let in more of the infinity of the universe, the infinity of the cosmos. So we have this amazing, unlimited, infinite universe that we live in. And it's being filtered through this awareness that then comes into this little point of laser beam attention focus. And it's linear and it's limiting. It's also very useful. We wouldn't want to be without it. But we also want to be able to shift. This is the relaxation. This is really where we explore the nature of ourselves. So we rest in this awareness and we see, this awareness that I am is the universe, is the infinite cosmos, is the intelligent life force. So without limiting it, without taking this awareness that we are and having it be linear and limited. And again, this is part of that balance. This is part of the balance of the body, the balance of the mind, the balance of the heart. So in a way, we're allowing the waves of personality and the waves of self-identification, the waves of concern and fear and habit to just settle. So the surface becomes very calm, and then we can just allow ourselves to sit in the depth and the quietness and the peace and the safety and the equanimity of our true nature. Okay, so let's come on up, please, if you will. And you may want to have a bolster by or a couple of pillows just for support. And let's sit up. And let's extend the right leg out. And we'll take the left leg and bring it up and over this right leg. Just make sure that you're not holding this right leg in an active way. So the quadricep muscle wants to be relaxed. The foot wants to relax in terms of the hip relaxing. So we're not holding this right leg in any way. So as we apply compression into the joint capsules, where we're going in with the compression, so everything is relaxed. If it's tight, then we're bringing tightness into tightness. That's a whole different thing. So we're going to take this left foot and bring it just a little bit back towards that right hip. And then where I would put your pillows or your bolstering is on the right side. Yeah. Just for some support. And then let the spine elongate, just let it relax. And just very gently begin to twist over to the right. So we're not going to press this at all. We're just going to bring the torso, the shoulders over to the right a bit. And then from here, just begin to relax forward, really trying to relax that lower back as much as possible. And the reason I put the support on the right side is so you can control how much weight that you're allowing to seep into all these areas. So a lot of things going on here with this pose in terms of, well, I don't have to name them because you're feeling them. Do make sure that you relax the head down. So if you're feeling something in the neck, don't avoid it. Use the weight of the head to explore it. And then we'll just sit here for a bit. And so always just so I go over the basics here, the initial descent, we always evaluate. Am I safe? Can I relax? Am I supported? Am I at an appropriate depth for my body in this moment? From that evaluation, we start to really cultivate a sense of genuine stillness. We're not holding still, but we're allowing the stillness to just come from a deep inner place. And then always holding the awareness that if we need to, we can withdraw. We can withdraw just a very, very small amount just to give the body some relief, or we can come all the way out and regroup. So this is the general steps for, playing and flirting with your edge. Again, never ever is it about the pose. It's always about your relationship to whatever is arising moment to moment. And I may add, it's never about the feelings. It's never about the emotions. It's about your relationship to your feelings and your emotions. It's never about your thoughts. It's about your relationship to your thoughts. And this is really the definition of meditation, as far as I can tell, that meditation is just to give us some space and some time between ourselves and the sensations and the feelings and the thoughts, so we can see what is this relationship. So we're not so so close to them, so intertwined with them that we believe that's who we are, and we're just reacting and following habits. The slowing down, the slowing backward, back in, if you will, allows us this time to see it's not the thing, it's not the content, it's the consciousness of the content. Good. So if you're still folded over in the forward bend, just bring your body back to a relatively straight spine, so the head's pretty much over this right leg, and then we'll roll up from here. So we're going to keep going here. So what I would like to do now is I would like to take this left leg off of the right leg, and you can keep the right leg just extended out straight. I'm going to turn on a bit of an angle just to show you. So this left leg now will open around back. And if you can see, I'm opening the knee. So I'm not keeping the left knee close to the right knee. I'm opening it out and back, only until you feel just a slight tugging on this this right hip. It'll just start to externally rotate. Yeah. So don't force it back, but just a little bit here. Because again, there's a lot going on here. This is lovely to start to torque the pelvis and all these ligaments. And again, this bolstering, if you are rolling over to the right, then put the bolstering on the right. We're going to try to come forward here. If you're not so much to the right, but you still need some support, you can put your bolstering on the inside of the right leg and support yourself that way, or anywhere along here, depending on how this is a hip and pelvic compression. So wherever you feel it, that's where you're going to experience it. So just kind of soften into it. Let's see, wherever you feel it, that's where you're going to experience it. That makes perfect sense to me. It's interesting sometimes, coming into this pose with you and trying to talk about it, because it's it's kind of morphing from this very direct, primal sensory experience, and then it's trying to navigate its way up into language and imagery. And so if I don't always sound coherent, then it's not my fault at all. It's this this morphing thing that happens from body to mind. And let me just repeat something I kind of passed over when we were in the first part of this, that we're not holding still. If you find yourself using sort of a sense of discipline, and there's a tiny bit of struggle to hold still, readjust. The stillness comes from relaxation. So the more that we genuinely relax, that is the stillness. We're not trying to superimpose a sense of stillness on the body and then relax. We're relaxing, and from that relaxation, then stillness just appears, if you will.
Good. So from here, wherever you are with your upper body, let's come on up. And we're gonna just keep transforming this. So keep the right leg out where it is for the moment and bring the back leg around. So let's bring this left leg. So both legs are forward, yeah? And this time we'll keep the left leg extended and we'll take this right leg and put it somewhere on the inside of this left leg. And just let the right leg relax down. If it's too much on the hip, put something under it. And coming forward now, once again, evaluate on the way down. It may not be straightforward for you. You may want to, sway the upper body weight and see where you want to land here. And of course, using again the supports to control the upper body weight of pulling and compressing and being uncomfortable wherever the area is that you're feeling it. So relax down into it, soften, and we'll just keep going in this forward bend. And anytime you do find yourself beginning to diagnose or you feel a concern arising, anything at all, this is that linear attention, and it's a limitation. The invitation is to simply remember, to simply relax enough, expand enough, open enough to remember the body's innate balance, and that this is a wisdom that is really beyond our linear capacity. That the inner workings of the life force, the inner workings of your organism are always in this spectrum of coming out of alignment a bit, coming back into balance a bit, coming out of balance a bit, coming back into alignment. And so we're resting from all of our preoccupations on how to make that work, and trusting that resting, that bringing our awareness inward, this inner focus of our drishti, and just trusting and remembering this inner perfection, that's enough. And it allows us to start to explore and trust that, deep rest is a healing modality in and of itself. All of our tissues, our brain are always benefiting from genuine and deep rest. Good. So let's come on up from here and let's take a rest from all this forward bending. So let that right leg relax out and make yourself comfortable, and we'll take a bit of a rest here. Oh, I know what I was going to tell you. I completely forgot. I mentioned when I came back from my break that I was in an interesting process of integration. So I've been, for a while now studying the, I guess you would call it the approach, the wisdom of Advaita Vedanta, of non-duality, and also how interesting that quantum physics also weaves in to our reality and our understanding of our life in the universe. So I finally integrated these. I've finally seen the integration between non-duality and quantum physics. And as far as I can tell, it's all about cats. Now, those of you that are cat people will understand this. If you're not a cat person, you won't understand this. So every time I get to the edge of a sort of a quantum non-dual breakthrough understanding, I look over at my little kitty and he just looks up at me like, just stop it, just relax, go back into Shavasana. So it's lovely to have come to this final understanding that it's really, really all about cats. And certainly no offense to dogs, but that's a whole different study. I have not even begun to unpack that one. So forgive me if my understanding of the complexities of the universe are a bit lacking. Okay, enough silliness. Come on up. And before we do the other side of that, I would like to just come into the pelvis a bit. And I would like to give you three choices here. I did this all three ways, and they're all a little bit different. So I don't know what you have for supplies there, but what I'm proposing here for choices is we have a big bolster, a folded up blanket that is sort of mimicking the height and the firmness of the big bolster, and a block. I know some of you do have blocks and some of you don't. If you have a block, I would always suggest to put just something light over it for padding. It can be a little rigid on the sides. So going to target the same area, but each one is just a little bit different. So I would say just pick one. If you want to try more than one, you can. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show it with the block. It can be done with the big bolster or the padding, as I say. So the approach is the same, very simple. What we'll do is we will put this behind us and then elevate the hips up. Elevate the hips up and just place the back of the pelvis on here. So it's easy to stay away from the lower back with the block because it's so rigid. Maybe not so easy with the blanket or the bolster. And then keep the feet on the floor from the forearms, rest the upper body down so it's stable. And this is where you want to make your adjustments, whichever support you have. So you're really as supportive and firm and stable on the pelvic area. Yep. And then relax the legs out. And I would suggest to explore, because the compression into the pelvis, obviously centered in there is the sacrum and how the pelvic ligaments are holding the sacrum in place. So if you walk the legs open a little bit, you'll kind of feel this invitation for the sacrum to just to maybe make its presence known there. Yeah. So settle into this. This is as simple as it's going to be. We're not going to do any more movement. Arms can be at your side. Try not to, if you put something under the head, please try not to tuck the chin down to disturb the natural curve of the cervical spine. Just keep the back of the head on the floor. And then there's just a lot of, just the subtlety of the sensation. And so just become as sensitive as you can with this, this very, very ligamented part of the body. And please give yourself complete freedom to explore in any way that you're called. Let the the deep intelligence of the soma call you. So oftentimes this is there's a very specific point of discomfort, maybe even pain, and you can just draw yourself into it. See if you can find the center of it. See if you can uh, locate it. See if there's any texture to it. And then notice how that will change. How when we bring in that linear attention, that linear focus, we can't quite, even though we're sure that's where it is, it then morphs a bit. So be very interested in that. So that's one end of the spectrum. And then the other end of the spectrum is just to feel the bubbling up and the tingling and the flow and the variety of sensation and how that reverberates to the periphery of the body and sometimes beyond, and back into an illusory center of the body and sometimes beyond. So again, there's no technique. There's only cultivating great sensitivity and nuance. What is your body trying to tell you? Are there areas where you've maybe pushed something away or ignored something, and that the discomfort is a way, it's a language the body has to ask you for attention and care and loving kindness to these pathways of experience. really and truly cultivating depth is really dependent upon release, not adding things. So by release, what I mean on one level is that if something is not serving us, we just begin to let it go. We begin to observe it. We begin to uh, soften from it and not give it so much attention. But we're certainly not adding things. We're not trying to accomplish anything. We're cultivating a sense of trust in the intuitive wisdom of how the body maintains itself. It's almost a surrender to that mysterious wisdom. So any depth, any movement forward or into something more interesting is dependent upon releasing, not gaining anything. And this is a primary fundamental exploration of yin, just yin in general, the qualities of yin. So once again, in this position, if you could slowly deepen your breath, and here, notice when you inhale, just there's going to be a very subtle, maybe not so subtle, but an external rotation of the bones in this hip, pelvic, lumbar area. And just feel that. You don't even need to make it happen. Just inhale and feel this micro movement. And then when you exhale, just imagine a nice open bowl of emptiness in the lower belly, and just let any tension just drift and flow into that bowl, and just let it just keep drifting out to nowhere. So the inhalation brings you into a certain concentration, a certain awareness of micro movement. The exhalation allows to take any residue of tension from that movement and just let it sift through the lower belly. And then you can put your feet on the floor, and depending on what you have back there, you can start to bring the knees up to the chest. Be particularly careful if you have the block, because that edge, the back edge of the block, you don't want that pressing too sharply into the lumbar area. If you have the blanket, be careful of the balance. If you have the big bolster, it's pretty easy to bring the knees up. So either way will bring the knees up. And then as you're doing that, once you can release, you can put the feet on the floor and just elevate the hips and pull out whatever you have there. And what I'm going to suggest here is to just lie on your back, flat on the back now with no bolstering, and just bring the knees up to the chest and just gently start to kind of press them in, pump them in. And this is so nice to do. This is sort of mimicking a squat on the floor, but nice for the hips, but also really nice for the digestion and the torso organs. So I like to do this to pull the knees in and exhale, and really, really exhale, and feel also that the respiratory diaphragm is pressing up towards the heart area. And then when you release, inhale, and then that diaphragm is pressing down. So we've got all this diaphragm movement for the organs and the heart, and then bringing the knees in, mechanically kind of pressing into the digestive area. And just sort of, just kind of feel it, maybe sway the hips a little bit, pull the knees in. And then when you're ready, you can roll over to your side. And we're going to continue the other side of that forward bend that seems like we started oh so long ago. So this time we'll extend the left leg out. We'll bring the right leg up and over. And it's just a very gentle, just placing it so you don't have to align the knees. You'll feel this right hip. And then any bolstering you're going to use, any support would be put onto the left side, obviously. And then the same thing, just a gentle
elongating of the spine, a little gentle twist to the left, and relax the lower back and come over to the left a bit. But don't worry about it. If you're more straight, just you can sway a little bit. You'll feel it. There's so much going on back there that it's all really wanting attention. So really that's what we're doing. We're just using this compression to give this this fascial entanglement some attention so it can start to rehydrate and release a bit and unwind a bit. So just make yourself comfortable here. And then any micro movement that you do initiate, let this let this movement come from a place of genuine exploration. So the discomfort is inviting you to explore, and not from a place of wanting to move away from the discomfort. Good. So once again, if you are over to the left a bit, let's bring the spine straight. It's not so good to come up from the twist I have found. So just come on up. We'll roll up from here, and then same thing. We'll go into that position we were in by keeping. You're just going to keep your left leg can stay forward. I just angle for to show you. So then we'll take that right leg and bring it around back. And again, just opening the knee, a little bit of tug on the right hip. Again, if you're leaning over to the left, put your support over there or anywhere that feels like it's gonna, really allow you to have maximum control and sensitivity with the extended leg, with the rear leg, with the pelvis, and then let your body just relax down. And use as much bolstering as you want. Depth is not, we're not really interested in depth. We're not really interested in the pose. We're always and only interested in the direct feedback that you're getting from the body itself. And this is really, what I was just saying about
if we're going to move, have it be an intelligent exploration of the discomfort and not a moving away from the discomfort. So a moving away from the discomfort, two things on that. One, it really is a distraction, yes, and we get to explore distractions. But the other thing is, as I was saying earlier, we have a spectrum of how we can explore the sensation. So we can explore discomfort itself. You know, we can feel pain, but we can't really define pain. So when you're feeling uncomfortable, and this is the importance of being at an appropriate place, as we're too deep and we feel unsafe, we just go into protection mode and we are not open and sensitive enough to explore. So if you can feel something and it feels uncomfortable, it feels painful, maybe it's been there for a while, maybe it's brand new, what is that? What is the substance of, the nature of, the texture of discomfort itself? This is just a fascinating thing to explore. And these positions and the time and the quiet, the lack of technique or anything else to do is giving you such an opportunity to explore what it actually is. Be interested in the language of discomfort. Allow yourself to very freely follow the sensation to wherever it takes you. And this is quite a study. It's quite a study to see for yourself how the fabric of visceral physical sensation can morph into something, an emotional tone, an emotional sense, and how that emotional texture can morph into a mental energy, a thinking process, and how a thinking process can blend back into a physical sensation. So make friends, befriend the sensations, and be very curious about them. See if you have any agendas with this, see if you can go deeper into this process. And not, again, not in a way to figure it out. This is not a linear exploration, because honestly, we don't know. We don't know what this is, this dance within your body. But we can listen to its music. We can appreciate the fabric of the body in this way. Good. So let's come on up from here. And we'll keep this left leg out for a moment, and we'll bring the right leg back and around so we have both legs out. And then we're going to leave the right leg out and bring the left leg in. So we're just doing, again, we're just reversing what we did on the other side, and then we'll come forward again. So again, a nice, comfortable, softening, rounding, relaxing lower back. Find the depth that's appropriate, and we'll settle in. And in some ways, working on this, this fascial network in a very broad way, the imagery of fabric is really, in a way, a good one. This, these fibers, these elastin and collagen fibers that weave into fascial strands, that weave into tendons and ligaments and joint capsules. These are connected. There are no separate parts. And so where one is being pushed, the other is feeling a tug. Where one is being tugged, the other is feeling a push. This is a biotensegrity, an interconnection of a magnitude that is really mind-blowing in a way. So the fabric of the body wants to have fluidity, it wants to have flexibility, it wants to hold, it wants to bind, it wants to connect and communicate. So when the fabric knots up, when there's a blockage in the fabric, on some level, the whole system is feeling this. So we're entering into this fabric. And this is what I was saying, that the intelligence of this fabric, the intelligence of this myofascial system is really one. It's a wholeness of mind and heart and body. It's a reverberation at some level. It's a vibration. So you want to feel yourself as a vibrating fabric, a pulsating flow. Let us emerge. Let's just roll up and let's straighten out that leg and let us take a nice, well-deserved rest. don't usually, I don't usually talk about time only because it's such an individual and personal conceptual experience that most of us are having very different experiences conceptually based on our circumstances. But what I've been really contemplating lately, it's been very interesting, and this is really part of the yoga, is to allow the yoga posture to be this container to be still and to just simply contemplate, to just be able to think something through without our programming and our opinions swaying us. So what I've been really exploring lately is that any movement to the future is simply projection, and it's not true and it's not real. Any movement towards the past is simply recollection, and it's not true and it's not real. So it doesn't mean that it's not valuable to have this conceptual creativity. We want to be able to project into the future and use it creatively, obviously. We want to be able to recollect, obviously, and use it creatively. But to come to a direct understanding that it's not real, the recollection, the projection is not real and it's not true. The analogy would be when we have these lovely, creative, scary, friendly, beautiful dreams, and we wake up and we're like, oh, that wasn't real. So our conceptual projections and recollections are not real. The interesting thing about this, the thing to be curious about, is then what is real, what is true. And it allows us to contemplate and sit in the immediacy of the present. And it becomes very, very interesting because the immediacy of the present is then very organically unfolding into where it unfolds. So it's something that we cannot really hold on to, but we can experience. And one of the, coming back to this inner balance, remembering the balance, is that if we're out of balance and we're living in the virtual reality of our projections and our recollections, if we're spending more time there beyond what's useful or utilitarian, and it becomes a virtual reality for us, then we miss the texture of the present unfolding. We miss the texture of the immediacy of how reality is unfolding and the way that we explore that. So I think it's valuable. I think it's valuable to explore and not hold an opinion, not accept a method, because for this, there is no method except our direct experience. Okay, so don't get me started on time. Don't get me started on time or cats. Let's move on. So I would like to do the snail pose, the position of the snail, only because I know that it has a little muscular yang energy to it, but this particular pose is so incredibly therapeutic for chemical balance in the body, hormonal balance in the body, thyroid gland, digestion, overall metabolism, that it's just something that if you can start doing this on a daily basis, did I mention digestion? All of these things, it's really amazing for. And if you're not able to come into the position unaided, let me show you what to do. So I'll just show you what to do. So try not to get into it before I say, because I would like to just time it. Yeah, so we'll do it a couple of times so it doesn't become too fatiguing. You could stay in it the whole time if you'd like, but that's a little extreme. But if you're not, so the pose I'm talking about would be simply to bring the knees up to the chest, have some support on the floor, and then bring them up and over to your capacity. In yin, we don't straighten the legs because that will lengthen the intrinsic back muscles, and we always want to soften them. So we try to bend the knees and bring them close to the head. So now we're really into the throat and the thyroid and all of that. And then you can just support yourself on the floor. If you'd like to bring the shoulders closer together, you can interlock the fingers and then come a little bit deeper into it. Yeah, but I'm going to time it. So if this is not accessible to you, I do understand, but it is still worthy to explore. Take some pillows or the bolster. Yep. And you can go where we were earlier. You can bring the pelvis up. And then from here, you're supported, and you can start to bring the knees up and explore from here. And then you've got something you can hold on to your pillows or your bolster, and then just start to bring the knees up. You can even press on it and come into it to whatever your capability is. A little is better than nothing. This is just an incredibly powerful pose for all those things I mentioned. I won't go over them again. So let's, and I'm going to time it very specifically. This is the kind of pose that when we're in it, we don't want to be wondering, is he going to hold it for a ridiculous amount of time? It'll be short and sweet. We'll come out of it. We'll rest and we'll go back into it, and we'll rest and we'll go back into it one more time. So if you're ready, willing, and able, let's come into the first snail pose. And we'll start right now. And as the throat, if you go in deeper, gets constricted, just make sure you're taking little sips of air. Don't fight with the breath or struggle with it. We're not going to be in here that long. So just a little sip of breath in and out, just to maintain. Try to relax, feel the forward bending of this. Allow the compression to seep into the throat and the whole torso line. And then let's come on out. So support yourself coming down and out of it. Relax your legs down. If you're on pillows or bolster, you can just stay there. You don't have to come all the way out. So just now, I'll let your breath come back to a place of gentle equilibrium. And let's do it again. So come right back into it. We're going to hold it just a little bit longer this time. So this is a lot of feeling of this internal compression into the organs and the glands, the digestive area, obviously the throat. And if you begin to struggle with it, do try to relax. Try not to go past where you feel safe, obviously. And then let's roll out of it. So come on out. Well, relax the legs down. Again, if you're on support under the pelvis, you can just leave it there. We'll do it just one more time, but let's take a few relaxing breaths. And let's do it for the last time, just a tiny bit longer. So again, same thing. Allow yourself to receive the compression. Let your body receive this compression. Little sips of air. Try to relax, soften.
and let's unfold. So relax down. So this time, if you do have the bolstering under the pelvis, you can put the feet on the floor, elevate the hips, remove anything you have, and we'll just lie flat and relax. And just continue, just stay with the reverberations of this. Really let your body continue to be receptive. Just this energy of compressing and releasing, compressing and releasing. This is the, this is the primary energy of your life, of the life force, of energy of the universe. It's vibration, compress, release, compress, release. You want to feel this. And just I'll just say it one more time about this pose because it is so incredibly therapeutic, that there are a few things that you can just start to do on a daily basis with some consistency, and you don't have to do an entire hour or 2 hour yoga practice to get the benefit. And sometimes it's even better to start adopting that kind of pattern, because it's often daunting to, like, okay, well, now I have to put this time aside to do my practice, instead of just letting the body naturally. You just want to sort of a pick me up, or you want to feel a little more open or stimulate your inner vibration. You just come into the pose, just do a snail pose and relax and do a little forward bend. So you just start to listen to what your body needs, moment by moment throughout the day. And again, really starting to listen to a larger pattern of compressing and releasing. So whatever your activity you're doing, if it gets compressive, the body starts to tighten, the mind starts to become anxious. Just a few minutes of relaxation or deepening or breathing or a yoga pose, and then it opens things up, and you just really come into this beautiful way of pendulating your whole experience of being alive. Okay, so come on up, and I'm going to show this with the large bolster. And if you don't have the large bolster, you're just going to use your pillows and blankets in a way that mimics it. So build up something. The main thing is to support the whole torso in this backward bend, even the back of the head. So I would build it up something like this. I'm not going to use the pillows, but this would mimic the bolster in some way, where we'll sit and come over it, but the whole torso is supported. But I want to show it with the bolster. So if you're using the bolster for this, I'm also going to suggest taking a blanket, and you may or may not want to use this option depending on how your lower back is and the second option that we pick. But I'm just putting this blanket on the end of the bolster, so it's just draping over it. Yeah, and it's not folded that much, as you can see, but it can make a bit of a difference. Yeah. So the first option for this is to bend the knees back and come into a back bend supported over this bolster. So let's just go with that option first. So bending the knees back, sitting between the heels. Yeah. And I know if you're cringing at this, don't worry, I'll show another option. And just tucking it in. So if you have pillows here, this would be your support, supporting, compressing into the lumbar here, and then draping the body over so the back of the head is supported. Yeah, you may need a little something for your neck if you like. And then this would be the pose. Yeah, so this blanket draped over adds a little bit more compression than maybe you want. If you remove it, it's a little less. So this would be the first option. If indeed your knees are saying no, don't even think about it, then what I would suggest is spend a little time just bending the knees back. So you could do that by, sitting on some pillows, or just using the weight of the hands to come up and in. Because if we avoid these joints completely, they're never going to have the opportunity to open and rehydrate. And I understand rehabilitating the knees can be a very tricky thing. So what I'm suggesting is spend maybe a little time, even if you prop yourself way up, but just give the knees something. Then after you've done that, then you can just relax them out, bring this support in and come into the backward bend. Yeah. And be like, oh, yes. The other thing you could do is if you wanted to explore this, I did this the other day, is you could just bend one knee back. Yep. And come into this. The only thing about this is it tends to take a little bit away from the backward bend and puts it more in the quadricep and the knee. But it's your choice how you want to navigate this. And then you could release that and do the other one. Or you could just, like I said, work on the knees and then come into this backward bend. Always keeping in mind that we are going to be here for some unknown duration. So you want to make sure you feel like you can be stable and safe. Yeah, so let's go into it right now, please. And or a variation of that. And we'll see what happens. You can allow the energy of weariness and the energy of relaxation to be the same thing. Don't think that relaxation is resting from weariness.
we don't want to use any energy, any effort to separate these energies into conceptual frameworks. So any weariness, weariness of the just dealing with life, the weariness of dealing with gravity, allow that energy and relaxation to simply weave together. And ultimately and immediately, you're the eternal energy of the universe. And you cannot hold on to this, you cannot catch it. But also, you cannot get rid of it. So part of our practice, if we can even call it a practice, is relaxing our need to label what we're feeling. We need to attach a label to our energy. But just sink into the depth of the cells themselves. So the energy of your cellular body is the same energy of the universe itself. So we allow the weariness that we cultivate by labeling and defining and diagnosing everything. We just allow that to blend into the energy of deep and safe relaxation. Remembering your body in perfect balance. So one of the ways that we can become a little closer to this inner balance, this balance of the body, this equilibrium that's in a spectrum, is to ask ourselves, which is more important, the in-breath or the out-breath? So we can't answer that question, obviously, because it's a matter of balance. They exist, the breath exists in a natural, innate equilibrium. So this is the same thing. This is the same energy we're remembering, where we're not discerning, if I do this, is it more important? Should I not do that? What about this? It's a relaxation into the innate, the innate intelligence of life itself, to allow you to exist and remember this perfect balance that you are. Good. So let's stir a little bit from the backward bend here.
And if you're in a good place and you would like to stay here longer, feel free to do that. We have one more uh, forward bend that I'm going to offer, but sometimes you get in an interesting place, and yeah, that would be your choice. But if you would like to come out, first thing always is to place the feet on the floor for stability. And then it's nice here. I often like to just raise the hips a little bit. This can be very interesting. And if the feet are on the floor, just sort of press up the pelvic cavity a bit, soften into the lumbar, just kind of play with it a little bit. You can let the knees go side to side, whatever feels good to release here. And then you'll know, your body will know when it's ready to. And when it gives you the okay, then let's just roll off of this bolstering and take a bit of a rest here. You may want to just curl up into a little ball for a few moments. And if you're staying in the backward bend, that's good. If you would like to come into final Shavasana at this point, I understand. Or if you would like to do one more, what I'm going to suggest is a very nice complement to that backward bend is just to come up and straddle the legs open, not as wide as you're able to. So once the hips start to tighten, back off a couple of inches so the hip flexors can be nice and loose. And then again, we're not trying to extend and stretch and tighten the lower back muscles. We want them a bit relaxed. So let your body just naturally come down. If you're not coming to the palms or the forearms and you want some support, use whatever you need. But this is a nice, this is just a lovely forward bend. So come into it any way that works for you, and we'll stay here for a bit. So I just want to revisit something I said earlier in how we have this, almost magical capacity to go from our wide open, spacious awareness to funneling it into a very linear and limited point of attention. And obviously, this is a lovely creative thing for us to have. But when we're working with tension, yes, which this practice is about, with the contraction and expansion of tension, whether it's physical, emotional, mental, or spiritual, we want to start to examine, part of the investigation of this self-inquiry is, what is our attention getting bound up in? So for the yogi, we want to be able to spend as much time, have as our home, if you will, our ground of being, as this spacious, open, brilliant awareness. And then be conscious when we divert it into a linear point of attention. But very often, through lack of consciousness, this attention gets bound up. And so we want to start to examine, investigate, what is my attention bound up in that it doesn't need to be bound up in? Bound tension. So can we start to unravel the attention that has become bound and allow it to unravel back into spacious awareness? So we're making the choice very consciously and very deliberately and starting to release the patterns, the neural pathway patterns that bring this attention into places where it's no longer necessary, it's not even needed. So to sit quietly and to contemplate and to allow it to be self-evident that we are spacious, open, brilliant awareness is very valuable. And to not disturb that, and then to watch the energy of attention and how we dance with it, how we dance with our attention. And if it gets bound, what a lovely thing to investigate. Okay, so let's come on up, please, if you will, from this forward bend, or not. If you're in a good place, you can stay right where you are. And then come into Shavasana if you like. Maybe you're already there. Or you could sit up with me. I usually don't take the time to go to an extended Shavasana, only because I know that everyone's doing different things at this point. So please follow what you need at this point. And we'll just take a few moments. I'll just sit and close our practice. And let us take these final moments of stillness to just simply sit with a genuine gratitude for our very existence. And just to be is a blessing. And namaste.